Hey everybody, this is Perch. I want to know if you had the same confusion at this statement that I have, and it's one that I hear in a lot of interviews, and it's whenever with a writer, whenever a writer is being interviewed by anyone, including me, by the way, because this has happened in several of my interviews. The writer's talking about kind of what they do, and they're talking about um, how they got a job for a book, and they're excited about this new book they're going to be writing. They're kind of all jacked up about it. Everything's very good, and the question comes up: how did you get this job, or how did it come to be that you are writing this character? And the writer says, well, I did a number of pitches, and I was shocked that they picked this one. That I got a call back, and the editor's like, "Yeah, I want you to do this one. I want you to do this pitch." And the writer always says it was the craziest, most outlandish pitch. It was the weirdest one, or it was so like I couldn't believe they were going to let me do it. And I've heard that now come up enough times that I start to wonder: is this hyperbole? Is this legitimate? Because if let's assume that it's just kind of one of those things you say in the industry. You know how when people give interviews, they're always like, or like award shows, how people always thank kind of there's a certain cadence to how the award acceptance goes. I got to thank the producer, I got to thank the director and the writer and the team that made everything work so well. They go through the same kind of stuff, and it's so much so that in like Saturday Night Live and shows like that, they'd have somebody, accepting an award, and they'd come and be like, I just have to thank Jesus, and I have to thank, it's just kind of always the same bit. So on one hand, I wonder if when writers say this about comics, if it's just kind of a bit, if it's like, well, I had this crazy pitch, and then they picked the one that I couldn't believe they pitched. Like I pitched like five good ideas and then one insane one, and they all picked the insane one. And I was like, wow, you want me to do this? Okay. And then buckle up. And that's how the comic came. I wonder if that's just kind of a bit. It's not actually what's going on. It's not actually that, this ludicrous idea was picked to be done. It's a way to kind of generate excitement for your book. It's like a hook. Like, you won't believe what they let me get away with. So that's one theory. The other one, and here's where I think this is the correct answer, this is the right one, is that editors are picking things that are insane for the writers to do. Like, I can't help but wonder, having talked to some writers on my channel, like Brian Edward Hill. He talked about several of his pitches and things he's done, and I kind of want to see, like, I want the editor briefly to be kind of taken out of the picture, and for Brian Hill to say, hey, you put four pitches together. What are the two strongest ones that you think what are your two favorite pitches? We're just going to let you do those. What are the ones that are you most excited about? You think will be good, solid comics that will contribute to the broader Marvel or DC universe, that will do right by the character and everything is good. Nothing extreme, not outlandish, not like it's going to completely upend the entire world as we know it on its head, but just what do you think? What are your solid pitches? Because I'm starting to suspect that writing a good, solid pitch, writing a concept for a book that is just, pardon the expression, meat and potatoes, that is going to just take this character and do something good with them. It feels like those concepts, those story pitches, are being dismissed. That those are not the ones that are getting picked, as kind of the editorial team struggles to find the new hot take, for lack of a better word, of comics. And how many of the comics we're reading today are the result of a wacky hot take kind of pitch that was then, as the editor and the team was all like, hey, let's do this. Let's take your craziest pitch. This one's insane. It will upend the entire universe. Let's do it. And the writer's kind of surprised. They're like, well, this is the idea that I thought would never get picked because it's so destructive and, changes everything as we know it. And the editor's like, no, let's do it. This is what we're going to do. This is exciting. It's going to break the internet. We're going to go for it. But then what I've also heard from other writers is then when they get into doing the story, when they start to actually put this stuff to paper and they work on it, suddenly the pitch gets watered down. Suddenly it's like, hey, that break the internet thing. Maybe break a little less breaking of the internet. Just kind of crack the internet. We're not going to completely break it. We're just going to kind of nudge it a little bit. That's the amount of breakage that's going to go on here today. And the result is we get stories in comics that are not the original vision of the writer, either what the kind of pitch that they thought would be good for them to do, or the original hot take pitch that maybe was, far out there, but at least, had some originality, some meat to it. And we get this kind of the worst of both worlds. We get the hot take pitch watered down to where they really can't change too much at the end because we got to set it up for the next creative team we're going to hire in 6 issues. So let's just kind of go for a middle of the road kind of deal. It feels kind of like that's the common result that we're getting. And I'm wondering how much of this is the result of hot take pitches. Sounds wrong. How much of it is the hot take pitch that then is being kind of, signed off on where it really shouldn't have been, and then getting watered down before it actually makes print? It would explain quite a lot to me, because several comic arcs, I read them and I feel like, all right, there was an idea in here that was a good idea, but something happened to this idea to make it lame. Like I've talked to a lot of writers. Another common thing you hear from a lot of writers, usually on the other end of a run, is I had to cut a bunch of stuff back. There's stuff that I wanted to do, but we couldn't do it. And I've read enough pitches in these omnibuses, like you read Grant Morrison's new X-Men pitch, or you read Mark Millar's Civil War pitch, or some of these things. You read some of them, and you're like, well, this is a crazy hot take of a comic here. This is some nutty stuff that's going on. And you're seeing, like in Marvel, they put the notes from the senior editor or from somebody in Marvel. In Civil War, you had like Joe Quesada and Tom Brevoort both kind of weighing in. And you see their notes like, this is incredible, let's do this. And then you're reading the comic, you're like, well, the stuff that he said he was going to do didn't happen in the comic. So what happened? What happened between this is incredible, let's go for it, let's kill everybody and do all this kind of stuff, to the comic we actually got out the other end, which had none of that stuff, but kind of hinted at it, sort of, slightly. And is there a change in I would argue that there needs to be a change in mentality with the comic editorial and at these publishers, where they stop trying to find the flash in the pan kind of big hot take kind of comic, and instead they start thinking in terms of what's going to be a really solid story that is not going to be something that's going to break the internet, but is going to be remembered kind of for all time. Was this how it was? Like that Masters of Evil storyline way back in the day with the Avengers that had Captain Marvel, the Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel, and Jarvis gets the crap beat out of him, and just some other stuff happens in that Masters of Evil storyline. Really good storyline. Was that storyline pitched as this crazy, like, hot take storyline where the Masters of Evil were going to murder all the Avengers and then, like, wear their skins around in some kind of, like, weird orgy party for villains? And the editor's like, yeah, let's do it. And then when the comics started being written, it was scaled back. I highly doubt it. It feels like that pitch was probably something more along the lines of, hey, the Avengers are going to fight the Masters of Evil, and it's going to take a couple issues, and they're going to really get beat up, but they're going to prevail in the end. I don't know. That's what I take out of it. I feel like this, I don't know, I just keep hearing it in these interviews. I submitted 8 pitches, and then they called me back, and they said they wanted me to do this one. I was like, that one? That's the crazy one. Why? I can't believe you want me to do that one, but okay, here it goes. And if that's how stories are being picked, like the weirdest, most nutty pitch is the one that consistently gets picked from editorial, like it's probably a bad idea. Like that maybe that explains a lot about how some of these stories go, because the hot pitch comics never make their way all out to print. Like I've never seen the interview with any writer that goes, yeah, I submitted this crazy break the internet kind of insane idea that was going to completely upend everything and destroy it all, and then the comic you got was that. Like, I didn't get any editing. They just let me do exactly what I wanted, and that's what you got. Like, it that never happens. So feels like something's broken here, or I'm obsessing over something very small, and that's quite possible too. What do you think? Have you? First of all, you've heard this in interviews before, right? It's not just me. What do you make of it? Does it seem like maybe there's something broken in the mechanics here that maybe we should be searching for different things? And again, I get back to whether it's any of Kari Andrews or Sean Gordon Murphy. I've heard this from Scott Snyder. I've heard it from Brian Edward Hill, as I mentioned. I heard this from Jonathan Hickman. I've seen lots of these interviews where they say, Jeffrey Thorne said this about his Green Lantern run. Um, is it possible that maybe that maybe I want to hear what were the 4 or 5 stories they pitched that were just solid stories that weren't outlandish? Like, what are those stories? Can we maybe get those? Like, I'd like to see what do those look like. I mean, why not? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Hope you had fun. Enjoy. I'm in this process where I have to reimagine. I'm reimagining. I'm defying some expectations by reimagining how these videos end. Other than, thanks for listening.